Good morning, everybody. Sorry I'm a little late. Super slow getting started today. But again, I'm here now. Let me get situated. Okay. Before we do anything, as has been the tradition, 3 items from the bookshelves. But to change it up this time, rather than 3 books, I grabbed 3 tchotchkes. You see there's things, there's dinosaurs and little robots and all sorts of weird little things. Like we've got a little magenta figure sitting right there. We got my bobblehead. I pulled 3 things off to talk about off of the bookshelf. So let's see here, in no particular order. This right here, I forgot what this is actually. I don't know if this is a perler thing or just something like that. Anyway, you see these little booths in any Comic-Con you go to, any large Comic-Con you go to, any large Comic-Con that's not exclusively focused on comics, like the Arizona Comic Book Arts Festival. You see these kind of pixel art craft booths where people they make these, you can kind of see these are individual little plastic pieces. They'll recreate characters from different video games. I think you heat it maybe in the oven or something, they melt together and you have a figure. This is Nathan Rad Spencer, the protagonist from Bionic Commando for the Nintendo Entertainment System. One of my favorite games of all time. If and when the one and only Jim Lujan, oh, here we go, be amazing. I'm gonna try, buddy. If and when we get to do top 5 home, like console video games, I guarantee you Bionic Commando will be on my list. Not as an honorable mention either. It'll be in the top 5. I adored this game as a kid. I still adore it. It's one of those games, kind of like Legend of Zelda, the original Legend of Zelda, that I will go back and replay, once a year and once every couple of years. So I don't remember if they actually had this at the booth. I've had this for years. Or if I custom, I said like, I want this, and I sent them a picture, like a screen grab of Rad Spencer. How about that name? This is late 80s, of course. And his name is spelled R-A-D-D for reasons. But anyway, it's Nathan Rad Spencer. This is at the beginning of each level. He parachutes in. And then bing, and then you're off. You're doing your thing. Bionic Commando is the game. If you're a diehard Nintendo person, you remember Bionic Commando, probably. If you only have a fuzzy recollection, Bionic Commando is the game where you don't have a jump button. You have a bionic arm that shoots out and you swing around kind of like Spider-Man. And you go through all these different levels. The plot is it's just the perfect 80s B-movie video game plot where neo-Nazis in the future are trying to resurrect Hitler or clone him or something. They have this whole plan for world domination, and you need to infiltrate and you need to rescue someone who had gone in and gotten captured. You got to get him out. You got to figure out what the neo-Nazis are up to. You got to kill Hitler. It's just a great, ridiculous, like nonsense game. It's very difficult, not very difficult. It's not one of the hardest Nintendo games. It's not like Ninja Gaiden or I don't know, maybe one of the Castlevanias or something like that. These like extremely difficult Nintendo games, but it's tough but fair. It's a good challenge. One of my favorites. Anyway, also up there, I have 2 $2 bills. Why do I have this? Well, okay, the first one, which I believe was this one, this probably hints at the the mild sentimentality I have. The first time I did a con with DvsM stuff, which I believe, I think it really was like the first. Boy, now I'm questioning myself. I don't remember if this was necessarily Phoenix DinoCon, which was the con debut of DvsM, or the first Phoenix Con I did with DvsM. It sort of doesn't matter. You'll see why. But it was one of the firsts where I was still very, like, I don't know, is this a stupid idea? The comic didn't even exist yet. It was all prints and the coloring book, okay? I was selling stuff, and some guy liked whatever I was selling well enough that he bought something, and he paid me in cash, and in the pile of cash was a $2 bill. And I was like, oh, I don't want to take your $2 bill. And he's like, no, go ahead. I personally, now obviously it didn't really matter too much to him. To me, it meant a lot because I feel like a $2 bill is sort of cool. And I don't know if I had a $2 bill, I would probably keep it. I don't know if I would use it on some indie thing at a con. So I always was very flattered by the fact that this customer would give up a $2 bill to buy something, some DvsM thing, okay? This was early on in the DvsM journey. This would have been probably almost 10 years ago at this point. The last con I did, the Arizona Comic Book Arts Festival, it happened again. Someone paid for a book in cash, including a $2 bill. And I took that as a good sign. So I've kept them both. I keep them on my bookshelf. It's just a little, to me, I guess it represents that what I'm doing is somehow valuable, at least in a small way, to other people. This is how I remember it. I don't know. It's just a weird little thing up there to have. Okay. And then finally, I have my Super 7 reaction Voltron. When I was a kid and Voltron hit, I thought it was maybe the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, the 5-lion Voltron, I didn't really care about the car Voltron. Too many things. Too many vehicles, too many people, too confused. The actual robot didn't look all that cool. The Voltron robot looked amazing, I thought. I still think this looks amazing. I don't do fan art, but if I was ever going to do fan art, it might be the 5-lion Voltron, I have to say. I just think it's a really, really cool design. To me, there's a nostalgic sort of thing about this where it just represents mid-late 80s when a lot of that stuff was breaking through in America. Like I think there had been a lot of it for a long time in Japan, but now it was just starting, you were starting to get Robotech and Voltron and all this other stuff was just like kind of just starting to bleed in. It was so, for like a 11-year-old, 12-year-old kid in Arizona, so fresh, so weird, so bold. It had, and there's still things about this design that invite so much curiosity on my part. Like, what is there significance in the shield, like the chest icon, the chest heraldry, whatever this is on his chest? Like, is there, like, what are these little fin wings on his back? Is it just to look cool? Is that referencing something? Is there some previous design? Is this like is there like a heritage of visual design in robots, Japanese robots, that I'm oblivious to, that they're like paying homage to with it? I just think it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I still think it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. But anyway, it makes me happy just to have it up there. if I had unlimited money, I would 100% buy one of those $500 12-inch scale, you know, fully posable Voltron toys. I look at them all the time. I could never justify that expense unless I hit it big somehow. Unless I totally sold out with DvsM and had a pile of money. I think maybe the first thing I would buy, one of the first things I'd buy, of course, the first thing I would do is like probably pay off the credit card. But the next thing I would do, before I even fixed the crack in my windshield, is buy a big Voltron toy. I think that would be pretty boss. Anyway, okay, those are my 3 things from the bookshelf. All right. So, this is a weird, I'm going to check the word. There's a word I'm thinking of, and I don't remember it. Let's see here. Yes. Bardo. So in Buddhism, Bardo is the time between death and rebirth, reincarnation. It's this, and this is a clumsy comparison, but just to kind of get you in the right place. It's kind of like a this is why it's a clumsy comparison. Think of it as a sort of limbo state. It's not like limbo in the sense that, obviously, in like the Christian idea of limbo or purgatory or whatever you're talking about, there's not going to be a life after that. Well, there'll be a kind of a life, but not a physical life here with all of us, okay? With Buddhism, so the idea that there's reincarnation happening, unless you're fully enlightened, you die, you get reincarnated, but there's a gap in between. The gap in between is Bardo. Why am I talking about all this? Because I kind of feel like I'm in Bardo right now. This, and I forget this because I haven't done it that often. I've only done 3 books. This is only the 3rd time I've been in this spot. But I'm reminded, going through it now, this is, I think, my least favorite part of the comic making process. Hands down. I can't even think of what would compare to it at this point. It's the part where you've decided it's done. You've signed off on, you're like, all right, I'm going to just go with this. I'm going to call it done. Work is never finished. It's only abandoned. I'm abandoning it. I'm making all my print files. I'm uploading it to Dropbox. I'm sending Comics Wellspring the link to Dropbox. I'm telling them this is the paper I want. This is how I want it done. These are the blank pages. No, I don't want the ad, blah, 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 blah. And send it off, okay? There's this period now of waiting for the book to show up where you really don't have anything to do. Like you just have to kind of sit, and there's no point in really looking at it anymore while you're waiting for the proof to show up. There's no point in, like, there's no work to do. It's all done. But you can't, it's not like, it's like, well, now I'll bag and board, or now I'll do an Etsy listing, or now I'll do a, like, there's nothing, you can't do anything yet. You can't, you're just, this is my Bardo state. I hate this part so much. It's not just the impatience of like, I want to see it now. It's this kind of weird, I think an element of it is the weird helplessness of it, where you're so engaged with making this thing and trying to make it as good as it can be for so long. And you're very, like, you feel like you have you have complete control really over what it's going to be. And at this point, you're just like, You're sending the kid out into the world, and you know people are going to be mean to them. Some girl's going to break their heart, and you know they're going to apply for a job and not get it because some other person knew how to work the levers better. Like you're just kind of, but you're kind of like, well, I've done everything I can. Like they just have to kind of. That's kind of how it feels. Ironically, so there's this worst part that I'm in right now. To me, the best part of the whole thing is when the proof shows up and you actually see it. For the first time, I can hold in my hands this thing that I've been working on for like a year and a half or 2 years, however long it's been all told, drawing it for 60 weeks, but then there's writing it and taking reference pictures and gathering reference material and doing all my homework of like what kind of suits did they wear in 1970, like all that stuff. It's probably a 2-year, you know, it's like making a movie. It's like I'm making a movie. Then one day something shows up in the mail and you open it and it's your book and you can flip through it and the page turns are where you thought about them 20 months ago, and it reads the way you imagined it 20 months ago. And you know it's and you think of like all the work it took, and you can't even believe there's a point where if you've been working hard enough, long enough, you kind of can't believe you did it. You look at the final thing and you're sort of, I think any, you know, fellow creators out there, they know what I'm talking about. You look at it and you're like, I don't even know how I did this. I don't, and that's a feeling I get, like sometimes it's a horrible feeling. I remember when I was gearing up to do this one, 79, I flipped through 97 for the first time in like a year, you know, because I don't go and sit and reread my own books. Like that would be kind of weird. But like once in a while you flip through and it's like, how did I handle this? And how did I handle this kind of moment? And how did, you know, you mostly you go back to see like, how did I solve this problem before? Because I know I'm going to run into that same problem with this one. And did it work? And do I want to do it differently? I remember I was reading 97 before I started this one. And it kind of was a bad idea. Like it kind of freaked me out because I was looking at it and, you know, 97 was an ambitious book. This was an ambitious book, but it's 59 pages and you have like a lot of small character moments with like Jenny and Cynthia in the cell. And you have like big, like Mars bots fighting a Styracosaur in the desert. And you have everything in between. Like it was this kind of huge swing. And like, yeah, so many pages and a lot of like really fiddly, ambitious drawing with like the Mars bot and the dinosaurs and stuff, like and the soldiers doing things. And I was just looking at it and I was like, I don't even understand how I did this. I don't even understand how I made the choices I made. If I had to redraw this today, I don't think I would. This is the worst feeling. I think any artist especially knows this, but a writer would too. Sometimes you'll look at your work. It's great when you look at it and you say, like, I could do that better now. That's actually wonderful because that means you've grown. What's a terrible feeling is when you look at something you did and go, if I had to do that again today, I don't know if it'd be as good. Like, I don't even know how I got there. Like, what did I do? How did I do this? Where did that idea come from? That's a horrible feeling, especially when you're getting ready to draw a new book. You're like, something happened. I had too many beers. I killed too many brain cells. I can't do this again. And you can, and I can confidently say, mild promo for 79. 79 is the best looking of all the DvsM books. I think it's, this is a rare moment of self-promotion on my part. I think it's the best everything of the DvsM books. I think it's the best written. I think it's the best drawn. I think it's the most carefully thought out and considered. I know it's like without getting into, as you know, if you've watched me for a while, I don't really get into like meaning and symbolism and everything with DvsM, even though there is a lot. I like try to embed a lot of it in there, but I trust the reader, or I'm leaving it to the reader to have the fun of trying to sort that out. I will tell you it's 100% the most personal of the DvsMs. It's the one that if I can step out of it, if someone was just making these and it wasn't me and I was a reader of DvsM, I think it's the one that I would feel, it would generate the most feelings, like personal reaction. Anyway, I'm going to look at the chat. I haven't been looking at the chat. Let's see. Congrats on being done. Thank you, Squatch. Really want to know about the celebratory next to Meatloaf. That's why we're here. I should have uploaded the picture. I did have, there's a place nearby. Jim, next time you're in town, we're going. Dick's Hideaway is what it's called. It's like basically a bar, but they have a full menu. Food's amazing. It's New Mexican cuisine, so it's spicy. If you've never had New Mexican, it's very like hatch chili focused, and like hatch chili is like, it'll get you. Anyway, they have a breakfast special. They do brunch, meatloaf and eggs, and that just sounded so comfort foody and amazing to me. I wanted some, and they douse it in green chili sauce, so it's like spicy meatloaf with eggs and a tortilla and all that. It was my victory meatloaf. Okay. You know, obviously I'm not having to do anything with him right now, so might as well serve multiple purposes. 3 3/4 year, 21 days, 14 hours. What is that? Is that how long it's been since? That's not how long it's been since 97, right? When did 97 even come out? I think it was like, oh, maybe it was. Maybe it's copyright 19. It doesn't seem right. But that is probably. COVID threw everything. And yeah, my whole sense of time is screwed up from that shutdown. Anyway, let's see. I've got a guest in the green room. The one, the only, the inimitable Scott Lost.
Hey, it's me.
How's it going? Yeah, look at him.
Everybody.
Yeah.
That's fire. That's the whole, everything's on fire now.
Yeah. Right. How's it going, man?
Everything is good. So did I hear that you feel like 97 was your best work?
It was compared to, no, I think 79 is my best.
Oh, okay.
100%. Yeah. But I think when I was gearing up, I think for sure 97 was better work. I want to believe, I have to believe, tell me if you feel the same way. I have to believe they're all sort of equivalently good. Like they're all, like, I don't feel like 75 was.
They're all trash.
Yeah, or I've never felt, thank God, so far, I've never felt like, oh, I wish I could do 75 again. Like, I didn't know what I was doing back then. It's garbage. Like, I don't have that attitude. But I think 97 was way more ambitious and way more nicely done. You know, like, so I think I think the drawing's better. I think the writing's more ambitious and complicated. I think it's a richer story. I think 75, and this was the intention setting out. So even if I did redo 75 today, I don't think it would be meaningfully different. 75 is a very small focus. It's like two guys in the car getting a sense of what it's like to be a man in black, talking about some ideas, and then they show up and there's kind of like a weird action hallucination sequence, the end. Like, it's a very small little, it's very vignette-y, you know? I think 97 tries to give a better sense of like a bigger canvas. You know, you're getting both halves of like the small stuff with Jenny, but then also like this whole like crazy dinosaur Martian war thing in the canyon. So you're trying to get a little bit of everything. I think 79 is a little like that too, where I think the character moments are richer and deeper and quieter and smaller. Like there's more moments of just like looking at someone's face, reacting to something. There's that little, like almost like kind of cinema like type mentality of like, let's get little and small and like feel things. But then also when stuff goes off the rails, it's like, you know, you're in the trenches in the war. Like it's crazy. And so I'm trying to, I think all of the rest, when I think about it, are sort of that kind of aesthetic where it's taking time to have little character moments and really kind of try and do something sensitive, but never neglecting like, okay, but at some point someone's going to get hit by a ray gun or someone's going to get, you know, I mean, like something awful is going to happen, you know, something big's going to happen. Some sci-fi thing's going to happen.
Yeah, I wish I felt like that with my older books, like the first trade paperback, like that first storyline. Like there's so much that I would like to redo. And, you know, I've talked about it on the podcast, the Making Comics podcast, about kind of like going through and redoing the faces, like keeping the majority of it, but just making the faces consistent throughout. You know, that's just like, okay, that's one thing that would make the book better. Cause, you know, when I started, I was literally finishing pro wrestling and then just drawing comics again, like 10 years later. Right. So it's one of those things where it's just like, okay, I kind of don't know what the hell I'm doing. And you're just going off of me and my writer. We were both going off of just, you know, what, 30, 20 years worth of reading comic books. You know what I mean? Like, so we're just like, okay, well, we've read comic books, so we probably know how to do this.
Right.
And
it's something like this, right? This is what we've seen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the same. And so, but yeah, I was just going back and like talking to my editor, and it's just like, oh gosh, yeah. Like, okay, there's a lot of work there that I wasn't seeing, you know, and that he was pointing out. And it's just kind of like, man, I really do need to go back and like either just drop it, basically have it kind of like a legacy. Like it's still part of the story, but it's not the thing that is going to be reprinted and shown everyone. And so there's a lot of that. And for your first book, it's like you did something that can stand on its own. Like you can just read that book and you're like, hey, that was pretty good. I enjoyed that. And you could move on as a creator. You can go, yeah, that was fun. That's what I wanted to do. But for me, I started with a 5-part story arc, which is 100% what you're not supposed to do.
Right.
But like the fact that your book could either stand alone, like on its own two legs, like if it didn't, if you looked back and you're like, yeah, this is shit. I didn't know what I was doing. You're kind of one of the rare cases where your first comic book is really good. It's just like, oh shit, this is like a legit good comic book. Like I remember talking to Keith about it. You know, we met you at Phoenix Fan Fusion, you know, how many years ago. And, you know, we're like, hey, we do, like, he was cool. Hey, let's swap books or whatever. And then, you know, most of the time I don't even read those books. Like when I do that with other creators near you, you know, it's like sometimes it's a courtesy. It's like,
I know, I feel terrible too. That's also, I think next stream I'm going to be talking about the pile of books I've accumulated that I haven't read, that I'm going to like, I'm doing it, guys. I'm doing it. I'm reading all of them. But I read yours. It took a few months. And I think it was because we were interacting on social media that it actually led me to read it. Like if we never talked to you again, I probably would have never read the book. It was just, I have a box of indie books that are filled with, you know, Kickstarter projects that I've never read or tablemates that like, I just, hey, you're cool. Let's swap. And then let's swap books. And you look at it and you think like, yeah, that looks cool. And you just never get around to it. But no, the one that I'm the most guilty of, I'm so glad to hear you say this. I'll see an artist, like one will go on the Artcasters or something, or it'll get recommended to me. Something will happen where I'll see a Kickstarter. And I was like, and I'm, especially for the first time, I'm a very easy sell on helping an indie with their Kickstarter. Like if, you know, the barrier for me is pretty low. You know, now if I come back for a second or a third or a fourth, that I kind of have to like whatever you're doing. But like that first one, it's like, sure, you know, like I'll throw 10 or $15 and get a floppy just, you know, to help out. So I have so many. They show up, and yeah, as you know, they show up months later. Like the running gag, like with Mary, is like she's like, "What is that?" I was like, "I don't know." Like you open it up, I don't remember.
Same. My girlfriend's like, "Another package," and I was
Yeah,
like, "I don't know what this is."
I
was like,
it
"I
could have been
haven't
something I
ordered."
backed 2 years ago. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah,
yeah. It's like I haven't ordered anything off of eBay this week, so I don't know what this is. I was more than likely it's a Kickstarter book. And
right.
then I
Yeah,
opened
and
it up
you
and was
look
like,
at it
"Yeah,
and
I
you're like,
backed this a year and a half ago, and it's finally
yeah,
here." So okay.
yeah, and you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, I remember this one. Yeah, yeah, and it goes into a pile. And I have to admit, those are the ones that I'm the worst about. I'm the worst sitting and like catching up on all those.
What I have like a small group chat with a couple of buddies, and for a little bit we were doing a book club with my Kickstarter indie comics. And so,
Mhm.
because I have a folder where because usually they come with a digital file, and then so I'll download it, I'll throw it in the indie comics folder. And I was like, "Hey, do you guys want to start reading some books?" And they're like, "Yeah." So I would just send them the link
Yeah,
of that folder. I'm like, "Hey, okay, what do you guys want to read today?" And then they'll look through and say, "Hey, this looks interesting," and then we'll read it and we'll kind of like talk about it. So it was kind of a fun thing to do. It was like a weekly thing, and it was helping me actually read the Kickstarter books, and it made
yeah.
me also go like, "Fuck, this book is trash. Like this book is so bad." And like there's one that I back every single time, and it's because the art is amazing. There's two of them actually. There's two Kickstarters that I back every time because the art is so good that I'm like, I got to keep getting it because I like this guy's art. But man, the
Yeah.
writing is just so terrible,
It's
and
it,
it
it's heartbreaking.
reinforces how I feel about indie creators who are writer artists. Now, when I say writer artists, I don't mean you, because you're like a
Yeah, okay, yeah.
you're a legit writer artist. Like your art is good, your writing is good.
Thank
But
you.
there's we just had Andy Belanger, known to the Americans as Andy Bellinger. He's a very well known comic artist. Like he's worked for every every company, Marvel, DC, Image. And so primarily he just does his own books now through Lethal Comics. That's his brand, and he just does them on Kickstarter. He releases his books on Kickstarter and he makes a shit ton of money.
Yeah,
um, but oh crap, what was my point? Why did I bring this up? Oh right, yes.
yeah.
So
Writer artist.
we had him on the air, the last episode. It hasn't been released yet, and we were talking about that. And like Darwin Cook was a friend of his, and he was just like, "Dude, you need to write your own books." And I was kind of like, "Yeah," like I actually tell people on the podcast the opposite. Like if but the difference is Andy has legit writing cred. Like he goes and he takes classes. He signed up for like the master class series. So it's
Oh, yeah,
just like he's an artist who actually is taking writing seriously and
right.
is looking how to do it properly. Like, and like he's just like, you have a conversation with him. He's a storyteller. It's just like
Yeah,
how you, me, and Keith were storytellers. Like when we really try to engross you into the
right.
the story that we're telling. We're trying to transport you into that scene.
Yeah,
And so he's very much that way as well. And so he kind of has this base that's like, okay, you can tell stories like just you as a person, and then now you're taking these classes and it backs that up, you know what I mean? But if
yeah.
you're just like, if you're like me, like for instance, like I can tell stories, like I'm not a good writer, I'm a good rewriter. So it's
Mhm.
just like if you write something, I can see what's wrong with it, and I can see what could possibly make it better. But like the
Yeah,
structure overall, kind of like jumping here and there, like it's not my strong suit.
sure.
So, and that would be something for me to go like, if I really did want to take the reins of writing my own stuff like full on, then I would take classes, and like that's kind of the important part of creating is don't just do it because you think you can do it. And like look, draw the book, like write the book, but let me rewind a little bit. Do it, but then hand it to someone that's not a friend. Hand it to
Yeah,
someone hand it to a writer. Go, hey, read this, let me know what you think, and then you can get an honest assessment of what you're doing. Like, is your writing legitimately good, or does it need a little bit tweaking, or is it full on not good? So
yeah,
like for my advice to people is like artists specifically, if you're trying to do both, give it to someone that actually knows writing and see
yeah,
what they think about it, and that'll be objective.
yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It makes me think of the last thing I did before I sent this one to print was write a thank you page. which it's funny. I think for 75, I named like 5 people. You know, like it was because I was mostly just it was such a private enterprise, and I just like I'm gonna like again, and I tell this story all the time. I didn't even know if I was even gonna release it. Like I just wanted to see like, can I make a comic? You know,
So
like
crazy,
and
man.
I know. So I didn't really involve a lot of people. A couple, but I think there were literally like 5 names on my thank you page for 75. Compared to 79, I don't know how many it was, but I know it was a full page of text in the back of the book of me like talking, you know, and I'm not just listing names. It's not like a, you know, a Kickstarter backer page. It's like me trying to make it that I expressed the intention to Mary. It's like, I want it. So even if you know you're not on this page, and even if you really don't give a shit, like it's still sort of interesting to read, like me talking about it. So try to tell a little bit of story of like, these people helped with this and this is how, and this is valuable in this way, like whatever. Anyway, something I mentioned on that page, and this is based what you reminded me of, was inviting feedback along the way, like whether it was at the script stage or take a look at this panel, is it working, or like, what do you think of this back cover blurb, whatever it is, you know, like, and you were involved in some of that too, where it was like sharing, like, this is maybe the text of the back cover, maybe, I don't know, like, let's see, like, does anyone see anything horrible?
Yeah, working it out and whatnot, yeah.
Yeah, and I do mention Keith's quote, which I say also in the thing, is like, I think he's quoting somebody else of like, take what's useful, leave what's useless.
Yeah,
like,
that's my
you know,
quote.
like, yeah, like, which
Well,
I think is
it's my quote, but it's not my. It's the quote I always say, but it's Bruce Lee's quote. It's a
oh, there. See,
Kundo.
if I had known it was
Yeah, so
Bruce
like
Lee.
I'll say that on the pod sometimes. I'm like, Bruce Lee that shit, and it's
Oh,
a
see, I
shortcut for
didn't
like Jeet Kundo. It's just like, take what is useful, leave what is useless.
see. Okay, well, there we go. I would have added that. Maybe I can even still revise the. I'm waiting for the proof. So, but no, I attribute it to Keith, but I also say like who I think is quoting somebody else, but I didn't know who. So I did like, he's quoting you, and you're quoting Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in any case.
Yeah, stop stealing my thunder, Keith, you son of a bitch.
I know.
I'm properly trying to steal it from Bruce Lee.
I know. I want credit for first theft.
Yeah. Also, Jim, I don't believe you. I think you're still in your car.
We don't actually know. I mean, he's not actually patching in to show us that he's, you know, fixed structure, permanent structure.
He's driving.
He's driving. But I make the point in it that, you know, I get feedback. I spread stuff around. I think I mentioned to you guys, like, if one person points something out, I may or may not really do anything with it. Depends if I think like, oh no, yeah, that's true, or like, nah, you know. But if 2 people say something, that like zeroes me in. It's like, there's something wrong there. There's something that's not working, you know, and then I'll go and like mess with something. But
yeah, the description of a sci-fi for your book, it's like a sci-fi war. It's just,
nobody, you know, like,
it's just like, it paints a very clear picture. It's very much Star Wars, Flash Gordon, John Carter, Warlord of Mars. You know what I mean? Like, that's when I hear sci-fi.
More fantastical.
Yes, and your book is so grounded. So, you know, like in reality, like, because it's like The Walking Dead, where, oh, it's a story about zombies. No, it's not a story about zombies. It's a story about people dealing with living in the zombie apocalypse. It's not about the zombies. Whereas, you know, your book does involve, you know, dinosaurs and aliens, but a large majority of your story is focusing on the humans that are dealing with the surroundings.
It's very much like just the setting, you know. It's not so much really like, you're never going to see a DvsM that's about an alien, you know, just following an alien about his day. Like, that's not really what it's. I mean, that's kind of a fun idea, but that's not until now. Now I don't know. Never seen.
I'm gonna draw a add-on to your book.
Yes,
and it'll just
be I allow someone, if they want to do the fan fiction of the day in the life of a DvsM alien. You have my permission. But
And then I'll do it and I'll splice it in, and then it cuts to like later, and it's just one of the aliens getting murdered, and you're like, oh fuck, I like that guy. Like he just drank his coffee earlier, and
he was cool.
Tucked his
He didn't
kids
even want to
in
go to
the
work
flying
that day.
saucer bed, and then just got his brains blown out.
Right, that's a shame.
Yeah.
But well, yeah, now this is like, I don't even remember what my original point was. Now it's like, as you and Keith have suffered the most of this. I'm really trying to figure out a revised or new pitch for DvsM. And I have to say, like, the more I get into it, the more confused and uncertain I get about how to change it. Like, so this is, let me do the history so far.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't. I'm kind of ending up there. It's like, maybe it's fine.
Dude, your pitch is perfect. But
okay,
tell the audience like your options, like, or what you think, or your original one.
Okay, so the original. So if we go all the way back, and I'm not going to do like a long history of DvsM and pitch, but like so just very roughly. Originally, it was dinosaurs versus Marsbots. It was prints of, I would do a print, like a Tyrannosaur print. And the Tyrannosaur print, you'd see a Tyrannosaur tossing an alien into its mouth with a wrecked Marsbot. And that's all they were just, I'm going to do a dinosaur print. You're going to see a dinosaur fighting an alien or something like that. And it's very just B-movie, silly. Like that's the whole depth of it. I did write like story stuff that would be on the back side, like that would be like quotes from eyewitnesses on the front line, which is basically what the comic evolved from. Like this idea of like, what would the story be? And do that is very kind of gritty and real. Like do that is very straight. But the art itself was very goofy and over the top, and it was very forward, dinosaurs versus Marsbots. Okay. Then I did DvsM 1975. I made a point of calling it DvsM 1975 for two reasons. One, I thought Dinosaurs versus Marsbots was going to maybe make it seem more kid-friendly than it was. And I didn't want to have to be spending a whole con with like 7-year-olds coming up and like, yeah, dinosaurs, and me like, nah, like talking to their parents, like, nah, like I was like, DvsM is better. It fits the tone better. Also, it's not dinosaurs versus Marsbots to me sounds very pulpy, like very silly, like Mars Attacks. Right. And it's like, that's not really what it is. And I don't want to mislead anybody. Like, I don't want anyone to pick this up and it's like, what is this? Like, this isn't, it's like a chick and another chick in a cell talking. Like, this isn't,
forget about it.
Yeah, what is this? What is this woke bullshit? Yeah, no, like, I mean, it's just like, Dinosaurs vs. Marsbots is going to mislead people, and I don't want to have that conversation. So I'll do DvsM. But with the first book, mostly the reason I did it was there was no dinosaurs or Marsbots in 75. So I didn't want to be dinosaurs versus Marsbots, and you have a man in black and a couple aliens in a house. Like, that's not, it's like, I'm feeling like it's false advertising. So I'll do DvsM. Okay, so that's where we are, DvsM. We get to 97. Now we do have dinosaurs versus Marsbots in that. We have a dinosaur and a Marsbot, and it's more over the top, and it's more like crazy and more what people who had followed me from the beginning knew it to be. But I felt, again, it was like a pitch problem. That if I call this thing Dinosaurs versus Marsbots all the time, you're going to expect one thing. And when you get something very different, like part of me kind of liked that subversion. Part of me kind of liked tricking a customer. Like, you think you're going to get this weird pulp thing and whoa, you got a story. There's a part of me that kind of likes that, but not enough to maybe potentially disappoint somebody. So I was like, I'm going to stick with DvsM. Around now, fast forward to today, I think continued down that path where it's like, do I ever even want to say Dinosaurs versus Marsbots? Do I want to scrub that out of the comic? Like, do I want to be just DvsM from now on? Like completely just like, and the surprise won't be like, I thought this was pulp and I actually got like a character story, the surprise will be I got a character story, a weird spy, top secret leaked document character story. And like you turn a page and there's a dinosaur and like, what is happening? Like, you know, like it gets like it surprises you in that way rather than the other way. I'm surprising you with the B movie elements rather than you think you're getting a B movie and I surprise you with richness.
Okay, so that's something you were kind of hinting at when we were going back and forth in the group chat, that you don't want to mention the dinosaurs in your pitch because
I'm a little shy about, yeah. And now hold whatever thought, because I'm interested in your thoughts, but we've got right here, look at this, not in a car.
I don't know. I feel like that's some kind of filter.
Is it a convertible?
It's a filter. It's just like, you know,
filter.
like, yeah, on Zoom, you know, you could just put your background and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jim, this is really, it's an advanced filter.
Look, he's on the street. He's at a stop sign in a convertible.
I'm not in a car. I am not in a car.
Let's see your feet. I want to see. Oh, wow.
Gary, come on.
You don't believe it?
What he did was he pulled over, he parked the car, and he got out of the car.
Did you park the car? Where are you? Why are you just standing on a street corner?
I'm in Pasadena, California right now. And I wanted to Zoom or to chime in because I wanted to say, number one, I'm a fan of Scott Lost. Number two, congratulations, Gary. And number three, I wanted to show me not in a car. I am not in a car. I am not a transformer.
Ed, and E. Bronson, my writer, Ed, he said pre-recorded Jim Lujan footage.
Yeah, you need what is today's date? What is the
21.
Time? Yeah.
Today's date is...
Oh, you're not asking me. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm asking him. We need to confirm this is a live.
Today's date is April 21. And I think we can all agree that being not in a car, it's nice to be outside.
It is. Yeah. It's a very nice day in California for sure.
It is.
It's
very nice.
A little warm here, but
it's a little warm here too, but we needed it. It's been raining like nonstop for I don't know how long. Well, we get like 3 days of rain, 1 day of sunshine, and then back and forth. So,
Scott, what city are you in?
San Diego.
Oh, for some reason I thought you were in Arizona.
No, that's just where I met Gary. So usually we'll talk about us meeting at Phoenix Fan Fusion. So, but yeah, we're just a state away. So nice and easy drive over there.
6-hour drive.
I think we can all agree that California is superior to Arizona in every way, including the creative people that come out of California.
Except, here's a hot take. Everyone brace yourselves. I need a pop-up that will like flash hot take. Yeah. Except in the arena of Mexican food. I think Arizona's got you beat. I'm going to just say it right there. I know.
You know what? The best Mexican food I've ever had is in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh.
But some of the best Mexican food I've ever had is in San Diego, California, in Old Town.
San Diego is...
It's very good.
It's not, Gary, it's not even a hot take. It's just a bad take. It's a bad take.
No. We're gonna get some Mexican when you're here for the con. I'm gonna show you some of the strong contenders.
Okay. Yeah.
And maybe I'll come down there for the drink and draw too.
So. Oh, there you go.
You should.
Yeah, it's like people from Texas saying Tex-Mex is better. It's just like, come on.
Yeah, that is easily dismissible. That's ridiculous. Yeah.
Gary told me the best Mexican food are tamales in a can.
Not so fancy white today, are you?
It's a fancy white answer. Yeah, it's like the Hormel tamales that are wrapped in the wax paper. Do you remember those? The one, yeah. You're not going to find anything better than that in California. I'll tell you that.
I just chimed in to show you that I'm not in a car right now.
Right now.
But also, I also wanted to tell you congratulations, and I also wanted to share with you that today, this morning, and this afternoon, we're in a coffee shop in Pasadena, and I brought my iPad, and I get to work on my film in a beautiful environment, away from a cramped studio, out in
or a wall of books like that.
Then we get to go have lunch. Then we get to just hang out in the beautiful weather. So for all you artists out there, you need to go outside.
Oh yeah.
And I was gonna say kiss a girl.
I did both.
But Yeah.
Good for you. There you go.
I did my cold plunge. I do cold plunges every day.
Oh, are you?
Just
Wow.
about now? Yeah. Yeah.
I'm terrified I would have a heart attack on the spot. Like, I mean, is that? I mean, is the cold plunge thing real? Is this really like
It
a
is.
good thing to do?
It is. It kind of like refreshes you. And so I have a pool. So I'll just go out there and, you know, stand in the pool like neck level, you know, for like 7.5 minutes, and just kind of I feel refreshed after every time.
Wow.
Initially it's really hard. Initially it's a little tough to get used to. Like
Yeah.
when you get in, you kind of are shaking for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then after 30 seconds, you're kind of like, okay, this isn't as bad now. And then before you know it, like I just have my phone and I have YouTube open. So I'm just like watching stuff. So it kind of
distracting.
distracts me. So I love doing it. I was doing 3 days a week, and I think I'm already up to 4 this week. And so I probably average like 4 to 5 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it was
I
just
mean,
like
it seems
nice
like
and
it's
dried out too.
the trend now. I feel like a lot of people are doing, the cold plunging or the cold showers or whatever.
Remember when I was in Arizona and you tried to get me to go in the sauna with you, Gary? And it was just a tough shed, and Gary had a little spray bottle, and I'm like, no.
I thought he meant just going outside. Hey, do you want to go in the sauna? And then you just went outside.
You just step out. Yeah. Just stand on the porch. You missed each other. That's it.
Yeah. So anyways, I just want to tell you congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And
you can get back in your car now and drive wherever you were driving. I think
you call it a car, I call it a home. Okay. So anyways, I want to tell you congratulations, and
well done.
Scott, keep up the good work. You're fighting a good fight.
Thank you,
sir. Just tell Gary that that you're going to give him a receipt if he's not careful. So
wow.
And tell him again, remind him what that is, Scott.
That's a
I remember it. No, I remember
term.
what a receipt is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You will remember, Gary.
I'll see you in I'll see you in Gorilla, Scott. We'll talk later.
All right, Jim.
All right. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
All right. Jim Lujan, everyone. All right. So where was our bookmark? That's the history of pitching DvsM.
Yes.
Now I was trying new pitches on you and Keith. And I think it was something like, I've always admired your guys's, I've talked about this a lot on my streams. You have these, I think, very perfect one-sentence pitches that give potential customers at a con a good feel for what the thing is you're selling. So like Keith's, for example, for Katoja is giant monsters and Lovecraftian horror.
Meets HP Lovecraft.
Meets HP, yes.
Then,
and you
Three Protectors is Kung Fu in Space.
Kung Fu in Space. And for you, for a second shift, is
Minimum Wage Superheroes.
There we go. And then for Wanderers
is Anthropomorphic Dinosaurs versus Humans.
Yes. Okay. So I've always now the one I've used for years now, I have to credit to Scott Cirkland, who I think when he read 75 and he wrote a review for it for my Etsy shop, and he said, I think that it's something to the effect of if Quentin Tarantino did an X-Files, I think it would turn out something like this. Mm-hmm. And so I've always that's been my little thing. Like, imagine if Quentin Tarantino did X-Files. If Quentin Tarantino did an X-Files, like
that's
that.
One I like.
A lot of people like that, and I do too. And I would never retire it because I think it's strong. I think it's even on some of my printed materials. Like I use it places, just because I think it helps give people. But I was thinking, is there something better? Is there something that's less comparative and more explanatory? They really kind of, and so that's why I was playing with things like eyewitness accounts of a top secret war. I was trying to how do I really convey? This was another reason, just as a quick jaunt. I used to say it's an anthology series in the sense that they're all standalone. Each installment is standalone. I think they're all enhanced by reading them all, and I think they're even more enhanced by reading them in the order I release them or the order I'm doing them. But I write them all where you can just pick one, and you should be fine. But I've found, the longer I'm in this sort of comic community, anthology in the comic community seems to be better understood as a book that collects a bunch of different artists and writers doing completely unconnected stories. So I'm afraid if I'm saying like it's an anthology series, people are getting the wrong idea. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I want to get away from that. So how do I emphasize like each one is sort of standalone with a different focal character that is loosely connected to the rest? It's all the same universe. We're building on the same themes. There will be an overriding kind of larger story being told here, but like I'm picturing already for ads for Phoenix Fan Fusion, like it's like, which one should I buy? It's like 75, The Man in Black, 97, like the Innocent Bystander, 79, The Scientist, like boiling it down in that way where it's like, what do you want to read about? What sounds interesting to you?
I think that's a good approach as opposed to changing your pitch. And then, so working shows, like as many shows that Keith and I do, you learn that there are multiple type of customers. Now, something that I want to get that Keith has, he has runners that if it drapes over the front of your table, and he just has basically those elevator pitches right on it, and it pulls people straight in. Like people are like, hey, you had me at Lovecraft, or you had me at giant monsters, and they'll come and they'll talk specifically about that. So that's one thing that you can do. But when encountering fans at your table, you're going to need to do different types of pitches. And I think what you're saying now, that's when that stuff comes in. So like if you hit them with, if Quentin Tarantino wrote the X-Files, some people are like, yeah, how much? Okay, you don't need to say,
that'll be enough for
you don't need to say anything else. It's done.
Yeah.
If they go, oh, okay, and then you're like, well, that's when you can talk to them. Well, what kind of genres are you into? What kind of stories are you into? And then that's when you can pitch them all three of the books. You can go, okay, well, so this one's it's Men in Black, and blah 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 blah. So that's when those other pitches come into play. So and at that point you're just having a conversation. So and half of the time that's what it has to be when you're selling to strangers. You have to keep going. You have to keep giving them a little bit more. But then there's some people that love the quick pitch. And like as far as the comparative nature of your pitch, it's not a bad thing. And like I've heard people say, well, you really shouldn't do this. Why?
Yeah.
What's your reasoning? You know what I mean? And so for me, like there's these, and like if you guys listen to the Making Comics podcast over the years, you'll know that I do not like rules on art. So it's just like, okay,
same. I'm the same way.
It's like, who created these rules?
Yeah.
The people that came before us, right? And why are these rules? Well, they're not necessarily rules. These are the things that work. They're letting us know as creators, hey, if you do these things, it conveys what you need to as fast as possible to the audience. It seems to work well with the audience every time we do it this way. So then that's where they quote unquote become the rules. So you obviously have to learn those things so you can bend the rules, you can break the rules, you can change the rules because you understand them enough to repurpose the structure of your story. You can do different things. And like when I've heard that, so you shouldn't compare, it's just like, why not? Like it's the quickest way for people to understand things. And like like some humans are simpler than others, so maybe the comparison works really well. For like Wanderers, I'll say it's Avatar The Last Airbender meets He-Man. Okay, that's a different way to pitch it, because if you read Wanderers, that's the vibe you get. Avatar The Last, it's just like it's this quest type story mixed with He-Man, so it's just like it's a quick pitch and it gets to the point. And so you can have a bunch of different pitches just depending on the customer and what they need to hear.
I totally agree. I like you. I
like you too.
I like you, buddy. No, but like you, I am here. Can we wait? Let's see. Where's the?
Wait, I'm on this side.
That's not here. Okay, we're having a lot of trouble with this. You know what? It's our first time. Anyway, okay, so
it's like the reverse camera. You know what I mean? So like,
I know it's more confusing, and then like anyway,
the angle.
Like you, I am I just have an instinctive, like visceral revulsion when I start hearing rules. Like, this is, you should always, I hate that shit. Generally it's good advice in a lot of cases, but when you hear stuff like that, but sometimes it's just what happened to work for that one person in that one scenario. And it's like good to know, but not something you can apply all over.
Only the Sith deal in absolutes.
That's right. Well, and I think, this is something I've banged on about ever since 75. And I will always insist is the most important thing. Execution is king. Anything is possible if you do it well. Like, it doesn't matter. And this is something that came up when we've talked about talking head panels, where it's like, is it generally a good rule that talking head panels maybe should be avoided? Yeah, I think in a lot of cases. Does it mean it should be like an edict? Like, don't do it? No. I've seen lots of good examples of talking head panels. Like, you can do it well. It's just the execution bar is higher.
Half of your book is talking heads.
Like, it is. Like, and that's part of why I'm like, no, I disagree. You know, like, I think it can be done.
It's
wrong. And I don't know.
Watch it. You know, part of your pitch, the Quentin Tarantino thing. Half of Quentin Tarantino movies is people just talking.
And
the dialogue is good.
Too much.
The art good. We're fine.
Yeah. And by the way, a Tarantino movie, based on any other writer's aesthetic or any other kind of principles of what a movie dialogue should or shouldn't be, wildly overwritten. You know, like, I mean, you can imagine if Quentin Tarantino wasn't Quentin Tarantino and he passed his script to anybody to edit, people would be hacking that thing to pieces. And like, that's, again, like we've talked, you and I know a bunch of the people in the chat, we've talked about this a lot. You have to have a clear enough idea of what you're trying to do to sort out feedback. Quentin Tarantino meets the wrong person for feedback on his script for Reservoir Dogs or something, and that thing gets butchered, you know? Or Pulp Fiction, they'll be like, oh, why are you telling it out of order? Like, you can picture all sorts of dog shit, stupid feedback, you know, on what's something that actually is great. And the way, and he probably did get that feedback. I don't know. But he probably, and Avery, his co-writer on Pulp Fiction, who never gets shouted out enough, had probably a clear enough idea of like, no, it'll work. I get it. I get why you're worried. I get it seems like Samuel Jackson's talking a long time right now, and maybe we need to chop. I get that this conversation seems unnecessary, but it's fine. It's fine. I get it, you know, and it's all gonna work out. Anyway, so there's that. What was the other thought? Oh my God, you said so many good things, and it got my.
I know it's just my life, man. It's just all these gems.
I know.
Let me.
I know what it was.
Oh, okay.
So I was talking to my table mate at Arizona Comic Book Arts Festival. We were talking about comparison in pitches, good or bad. We were talking about it. And where I ended up on the conversation was kind of like the execution thing. It depends. I am personally turned off by comparison that where you're comparing what I would say are plot elements. So if you say, like, if I pitch DvsM as Mars Attacks meets Jurassic Park, to me that sounds hacky. Like, it really would turn me off if I heard that. I'd feel like, because I feel like, and the difference is when I say Quentin Tarantino meets X-Files.
Guess what I'm pitching at Phoenix Fan Fusion next to you. If I knock everyone's out, okay, here's the quick pitches on all of our books.
And just do the
Mars Attacks versus Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. Yeah, no. But I think the difference between Mars Attacks meets Jurassic Park and Quentin Tarantino doing X-Files. Quentin Tarantino doing X-Files gives you a sense of a feel.
Yes. Like,
it gives you a sense of like how it's going to play, you know? Jurassic Park meets Mars Attacks feels like plot elements. It feels like you're saying like it's going to be this weird mashup.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. Mashups turn me off. Like, I don't want a mashup.
It's the vibe. Like,
yeah.
Like, yours is a vibe. When I say Avatar: Last Airbender meets He-Man, it's the vibe of the book.
That's
You
a
read the
vibe.
book, it's the
Yeah,
vibe, you know.
that's a vibe.
So, but then if you do Mars Attacks versus or meets Jurassic Park, it doesn't work because what my head, I already know. I've read your books, so it's just like, yeah, that doesn't work for your book at all. Like that,
No,
it's just there's
you could
aliens
see
in
how
one movie
someone
and
could
there's
say
dinosaurs in other movies. It's just like, yeah, but it's not the same. Like,
it's not the same, and
mm-mm.
there's no sense of tone. And I think that's the most important thing if you're going to, in my opinion, this is not a rule. Because again, I just established like I don't do the rule thing. But in my opinion, if your comparison is eliciting a tone or a vibe, it's cool. Like I'm fine with it. Like that can, and like you said, that can be actually really helpful. It can really,
it does give a vibe and a tone, but it's the wrong vibe and tone. It's not your book.
it's the wrong,
So,
yeah. And
so
it's
like, okay, so what is Mars Attacks? It's kind of this goofy sci-fi invasion, and
right.
then Jurassic Park. So my brain connects the two by going, okay, it's a goofy sci-fi invasion where the dinosaurs are just eating the Martians and it's kind of chaos.
Right.
And but
yeah.
it's not it's like it feels like action adventure. It's an action adventure vibe that I get off of that pitch. And your book's not
Yeah.
action adventure. So it's
right.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I think what I love about Sir Scott's, yeah, he actually was in here. It's like, better than my quote? No, it can't be better than your quote. Your quote is great and it'll never be retired. But I've always just imagined, like, what's my next? Like, they always say, like, you should structure pitches and, like, what's the little blurb, what's slightly more elaborate, what's slightly big, you know, like you're drawing them more and more in. I think I always flounder after if Quentin Tarantino did X-Files. That's where I'm not sure where to go from there. Like, and I it's paralysis by analysis. It's like, do I want to really hit the dinosaur emphasis? Do I want to more emphasize eyewitness? Do I want to emphasize, like, what am I doing? What's the pitch that, like, is most not only inviting, but accurate to what I'm trying to sell?
I personally think the dinosaurs is a sell for me. So like I know you want to keep it as a surprise element to the readers, but for me it's part of the sell. I'm like, oh shit. Because just the idea of aliens and dinosaurs in the same place, because it's just like the past meets the future. Like what how's that happen? You know, so like part of the curiosity is, wait, how are there dinosaurs? So it makes me want to read the book. So yeah, for me personally, it's definitely part of the pitch. And it
well, and you and Keith both agreed on that. You're like, you should be, you're being a little shy about the dinosaur thing, and you should maybe even be leading with it. You know, like,
because it's not an element where I feel like it's a spoiler. Like I'm not spoiled by the knowledge of it. You know, and that's the thing is, it's like, look, if it was kind of this thing you were building up to, and it was a big reveal, then yeah, don't mention it. But when it's part of the world and it's just kind of like, oh shit, really? How do they do that? Well, you got to read the book to find out how you do that. Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'll read the book. Here's my $10.
Oh, this is sort of a fun spin. First 48 meets Men in Black. That's kind of a neat pitch. But the best pitches are teasers.
Yes, I also
I think you definitely want. Well, that's also always the trick. You want to give away enough where people get a sense of like what this thing's going to be, but you also want to be building intrigue. You know, where it's like, well, I want to know how that, like, I want to know what happens, or I want to know how that unfolds, or I don't know. It's a funny.
I think Paul's got a good one. It's a book. It's a book with words and pictures.
I think imagine.
Mm-hmm. I think
you don't have to imagine it. I'm actually going to draw what this stuff looks like.
I'm going to have to swap out one or two of my pitches with this.
There we go. Let's just get very back to basics. Let's pitch the concept of a comic book.
I think that'll be after I have a couple of beers, and it's one of those ones where like someone's walking by and I go, hey, how you doing? They go, hey, how you going?
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I draw a book with words and pictures.
Yeah. I'm going to do it. Try to remind me in case I forget. Assuming I get to making the table back at Phoenix Fan Fusion. After that, once I've hit that, it's like, that's the new, this is how I'm going to start trying to pitch. I'm going to start trying to pitch like, hey, books with pictures over here.
Don't be a bitch. Come get these picture books.
There we go.
Just really aggressive.
It's the
Mignola verse and the outer verse.
pitcher of beer. Wow. It's starting early.
I had a
I
pitcher
still
of beer
don't
last
get Ed
night.
on here.
I had a
I keep-
pitcher. Ed is so elusive when it comes to doing shows. The only time we get him on our show is when we're in person. You know.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Every
Oh,
time
yeah,
he's
I
been
think of it.
on,
Yeah.
yeah, every time he's been on the pod, it was because he was in person.
Yeah.
It's just like he's got like, you know, kids he's got to deal with and all of that. So it's like wrangling some chickens.
Yeah. Yeah. That's...
I had a pitcher of beer for the first time in a long time last night, and
Did
I
you
woke up at 3:30. Yeah, me and my family went bowling for one of my niece's birthdays, and we had a pitcher of beer, and I didn't realize until I went to a Bevmo today that the pitcher that I got, the beer was 9.5% ABV,
Ooh.
and we ordered 2 of them. And so
How
I
many
woke up
glasses did you have?
I think 4. Yeah,
I'd be dead. I wouldn't
Yeah.
be working today.
it's not great.
No.
It's not great, Carrie.
Not great. Just like a month or two ago, this is, I mean, boy, how the mighty have fallen since college. Like when you really can get out of practice with drinking. But
Oh, yeah.
I just a few months ago, I never would have imagined this, but I had dinner too early. Didn't eat enough, probably. That was part of it. Went and did a thing. After that, about 10 or 11 at night, had 2 cocktails. Like, then granted, they were strong. Like one, it was like a martini and like basically some sort of a bourbon drink. Okay, they were strong, but 2 drinks on a mostly empty stomach, not enough water. Went to bed, woke up the next morning, threw up. Like,
wow.
and it's yes.
I thought you were
like,
going to say you had a hangover.
No, I was like full. Like, I mean, I guess it was a hangover, and it took me a couple hours. Like, I was sitting in the morning, like sipping coffee and chewing Pepto-Bismol to kind of like re-level. But I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is how rarely I drink now. Where
My
like
body has a weird reaction. Like if I drink all night, right? Like we're partying or whatever, and I drink all night,
Yeah.
I'll be fine in the morning. As long as I don't lay back down, I'm fine. As soon
yeah,
as I
laying down.
drink, here's the weird part. As soon as I drink water or have food, I feel nauseous.
really.
Yeah, it's bizarre. They're
See,
like,
I'm like,
oh, you have a hang. Everyone is like, drink
Yeah.
water, it'll make you feel better because you're dehydrated, right? My
that
body
was the
goes,
biggest mistake I made. I should have, and I knew it at the time when I was going to bed. I was like, I should pound a giant thing of water right now because I just had
That's
2
the move.
cocktails on an empty stomach, and like that's not gonna be great. And I was just like, 2 drinks, I'm fine. And yeah, the next morning was horrible. I thought I was gonna die, and I never. That's crazy. I mean, it just shows, like I said, your body doesn't. It gets used to not drinking very often.
yeah, it's just harder too as you get older. Like you just
Yeah.
can't have as much. Like I was able to pound them. I was drinking them, just sipping them all night, and it tastes delicious. But then it was just you suffer the consequences later. And yeah,
Yeah.
the move is to pound a couple of bottles of water. And
Yeah.
I ended up waking up at 3:30. I like went in the bathroom, popped a couple of Advil, and pounded some water. And so I'm better than I was at 3:30, but I was running errands before this, and we were in the car, and I was like, oh, there's that nauseous feeling again. I was like,
Yep.
I do not miss this. So
Well, the last time I noticed too much drinking at all was probably when we did like the year in review podcast,
oh yeah.
and we were doing those strong beers. Like we all drank those strong beers that whole evening. I did drink a bunch of water. I did have food in my stomach, went to bed, but the next day I woke up like headachy and feeling like shit. Like it just,
Yeah,
I'm just-
now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of did the same thing you did, where I had like kind of like a light dinner, and
Yeah.
we ate before we met up with everyone, and yeah, it was just like Greek food, So it was just like I had a piece of pita, some hummus, a
Not-
little salad, and a couple of lamb sticks or whatever the heck they are, right?
yeah.
And so just kind of like a light dinner, and then proceeded to have two pitchers of 9.5%. So it was
It's-
just like, this was dumb, but it was
The
fun while it was happening.
series the series of small humiliations that come with getting older is just not. They don't tell you. They don't tell you.
It's true.
No.
We were doing WonderCon, me and Keith, and it was the weekend. So like I kind of don't. Here's another old person thing. I try not to
Yeah.
have sweets during the week, and like I kind of save it up for the weekend.
Yes.
And we had a couple of pieces of chocolate like during the show, and then I was just like, that was too much. And I was like, oh, unsalted almonds, and I was so excited about unsalted almonds. I was
They're
like,
healthy. Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm a real piece of shit. Like,
Oh, well, that's the other thing. Like you. I mean, you get to a point. Oh my God. When I was in college, I would come home for the summer and I would work all summer to try and just hoard money like a dragon on a gold pile. So I didn't have to work when I was away at school. Like I would try to save up a bunch of money so I could go back up north to college and just focus on school and not have to worry about a side job. So that was always varying levels of success, but that was always the strategy. So there was one summer where I was bussing tables at this Italian restaurant, and that was actually a pretty good job. I mean, you're dealing with any kind of food service, you're dealing with like dipshit customers, and that's the drag. But otherwise, it was pretty awesome. I was a college kid. Had cash tips every night. Like at the end of every shift, you get tipped out from the waitresses. And like you always were leaving with like undeclared income. Sorry, I hope the IRS isn't watching. But like all these tips that just in like, handfuls of cash in your pocket that it's like, this is great. Every day I have money, on top of whatever I'm being paid. Next door to the Italian place was a Safeway. I don't know if Safeways are everywhere, grocery store. And every single shift, like 4 or 5 days a week, I would finish. I would go over to Safeway. I'd buy myself a pint of Ben & Jerry's. I would go home and I would eat the entire pint watching TV every night. So I was having 4 or 5 pints of Ben & Jerry's a week, okay, with like my tip money.
so wild.
Under 25 pounds, couldn't budge. Like just solid. Like it didn't even matter because I was like 21, 22
like
or something.
Amazing
like
metabolism.
If I did that now, I would look like Brendan Fraser in The Whale. Like it would be unbelievable how like quickly I think things would go off the rails. Even if I had 1 pint a week, I think.
Yeah, it's true. It's just like I look at the wrong food I put on pounds. So
unbelievable.
Yeah,
so what it results in is most of the time I'm eating like some insane monk where it's like turmeric tea and oatmeal and like a salted avocado and just these weird like very mega healthy like super safe,
which I need to do. I just do intermittent fasting, but then I just eat kind of whatever I want. Like I don't put on too much weight. Like I fluctuate between 1 to 4 pounds at the most when I'm doing my fasting. So it's just kind of like, okay, well that's just what it is. But it's like, no, I definitely need to tighten stuff up.
Well,
I don't have that much.
I do pull the grenade and go bad. It allows me, it justifies like what I was talking about with Jim at the outset. Like I had meatloaf and eggs for breakfast a couple days ago. Like to me, that's how I can rationalize it. It's like most of the time I'm eating, salmon and broccoli, so it's like, okay, so when I want meatloaf and eggs or when I want a piece of pie or something, it's like, it's all fair, but I have to eat like that.
You have to balance.
To not immediately put on a ton of weight.
Yeah, I think I have to do that myself. It's just like, okay, it's time. You gotta chill the fuck out. I don't have that much time, but so I missed the beginning part because I did my cold plunge at your start.
Nice.
Did you talk about the printing of the book? Because I'm actually going through the same thing.
I did. I talked about how I placed the order. I talked about how this is the part I like least about the whole process of like you send it off and there's this waiting.
Oh,
like I hate this in between. Like, and it's funny because
it's exciting.
No, I don't do good with excitement. I've heard. I think I read somewhere someone saying you need to reframe anxiety as excitement, or you need to reframe worrying as like looking forward to something. And it's like no, that's not how it works for me.
Interesting.
I love getting the first copy. That to me is the peak experience of all of it. That's my favorite part of all of this. is to finally see the thing, you know, that I've been working on. That
Do
is
you
always,
still do the proof? Like they send
I
you
get
one
it.
proof and that's the one you're excited about, or
Yes.
the load coming in? Okay.
No, no, because the load is like a to-do list. Now I got a bag and board, you know,
And sign
potentially
and
hundreds
mail.
of books. Yeah, and like that,
Yeah.
I hate that part. Like that's, and it's funny because it only takes like 2 hours. Like you sit in front of the TV and you bag and
Yeah.
board, but like I just hate repetitive. I would be terrible on an assembly line. I would lose my mind. Like I can't.
You're
I
like, how
need
about we
to.
change it up? Is there any way we can do this different?
Yeah. Is there anything? Yeah. Yeah. It's bad. But like no, that is the peak, most emotional, happiest moment I have is when I get to look through the proof. The worst moment is leading up to it, where I'm just waiting. I placed this order. I spent hundreds of dollars on printing, and now I'm just waiting. You know.
Yeah,
Just
I actually like that part of the process, for me, because it lets me know my job is done. You know, it's just
yeah.
like, okay, like one thing that my printer does that's pretty cool, is he will video record flipping through the book. So he'll print one out on his end and he'll flip through slowly so you can see every page. And then so that way, if you need to pause and check something, like you
Yeah.
can. And so it's like you
Okay.
don't have to pay for the proof, you know, to be shipped to you and everything like that. It's a nice way to
Sure.
save dough. And so that's pretty cool. I like that part.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I get the books in, it's funny because you're like, yeah, I don't like the assembly line stuff. I kind of do. I kind of like spreading the books out and like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
all of these ones need to go to the Kickstarter backers. And then so I'll go through and I'll sign, and I'll lay them out to where they can dry, right? So they're not on top of each other. And I love
Yes.
taking a photo of that. Like the repetitive
That's
nature
true.
of the image looks really cool to me. And so I
Yeah.
love taking that photo afterwards. And yeah, I think it brings me some enjoyment. So what I'm doing, so if you guys can see right under my name there, I
Yes.
have a Second Shift Kickstarter. It's going on right now. It's called Second Shift Dragon's Skull. So if you're interested in checking it out, type that exactly the way it's spelled, 2NDSHIFT. And so something that I'm doing different is, normally, like you had mentioned earlier on the pod or in the YouTube show, was names in the back of the book. I eliminated that. I eliminated that process.
I heard that. I heard that. Yeah.
It's because it's what it does. It slows everything down. And like, I did this Kickstarter a month behind when I normally like to do it. I like to do it in March because I'll do it in the whole month of March. And then April, it gives me the whole month of April to get those books back from my printer. And then I can start sending stuff out. But then I'll also have books ready for Free Comic Book Day. So unfortunately, I was waiting on, which is the first week of May.
That's right.
Unfortunately, I had to do the Kickstarter a month later. So it ends the first day of May. And it's just like, oh shit, I'm not going to have my books for Free Comic Book Day. So, but what I did was I had everything done on my end, all the art, everything, lettering, all the indicia, the cover treatment, that's all done. So I had the PDF created already because there's no names that I have to wait for in the back of the book. And so that way I was able to get a small print run of the book from my printer. Now I'm still waiting on him and I have to follow up with him on Monday, but I did give him the deadline date of the 25th. I said, hey, look, I want to do the 100 print run so I could get the discount, but you don't have to give me all 100 right now. If you can't get them all to me by the 25th, it's not a big deal. Send me what you can. If you could send me like 25 to 50, like that would be sick, because I have Amazing Con Las Vegas next week, or this coming week.
Right.
And then I have Free Comic Book Day. So I have back-to-back events. So it's just like, no, I need to get the PDF ASAP. I need to get the books printed ASAP. So luckily I was able to get that done. And the Kickstarter still has like 8 to 9 days left. So it's just like, okay, cool. Like whatever I don't sell at the shows, I'll be able to send out the Kickstarter stuff to those who order just like the basic copies. So unless, actually, no, I can't, because I have stretch goal stuff that I have to include. But at least some of the books will be in and all of that. So I'm kind of like getting ahead of the process before the Kickstarter is even over.
Well, and I've been trying to actively not think about it because it's stressing me out a little bit. But before you know it, we'll have Phoenix Fan Fusion. Like I'm already thinking like I need to reorder 75 and 97. And I guess I should probably get that ball rolling in the next few weeks, like if I want it safely in time. Like it's only like 6 weeks away or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, pretty soon. Yeah.
like I need business card. Like there's stuff I need that I've
Oh
been
my
so
gosh.
focused on getting this done, I haven't thought about it.
Oh, I don't have it, but Keith got me something for Christmas and it's awesome. I think it's like Black Dot. I think that's what it's called, but it's a digital business card. So it's kind of like a hard card, like almost like
Yeah,
it's the size of a credit card, and it has a QR code on top on the top of it. And so people will scan it on their phone, they'll open their photos, you click the link and it takes you to all of your social media. It's so awesome. And
okay,
it's super easy to program as well. Like I was able to do it very quickly to like it has your photo on it. You have like
yeah,
it's almost like a Facebook page where your photo's at the top and there's like a background behind it. And so
yeah,
it's just like, my standard me drawing at the table photo, and then the
yeah,
background's like all of my books. And then it has Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If you have a podcast that you're doing or a YouTube show, you can add those links. So like
right.
there's like a Spotify link, so I put the Making Comics in there, and it saves you on having to buy business cards. It's like
Business card.
it's
You know
pretty
what?
awesome.
You and I are going to have to talk offline about, and with Keith, about how exactly we're dividing up table real estate, because something, I don't know if it'll be possible this time because it's three of us, but something that I tested at Arizona Comic Book Arts Festival that worked out really nicely and I kind of liked, and I just don't know if I'll have the room. At that, I had a whole table to myself, so I could kind of be experimental. I got a board printed out that had, I'll have to share a picture in our chat, but it had like little panels from all the comics to kind of show like sort of what the panels look like. And it also, I printed QR codes on them that would take you to my link tree. So like if you had, like if you wanted to just like and it was right there on the table. And I was surprised how many people they'd walk by and they'd really look. Basically, it was like a tablecloth with like, or like a table mat that had imagery and stuff to read on it. Like it was this kind of thing, like visual interest thing with QR codes on it for them to scan in. I don't know.
That's a
Like I
really
said,
cool
I don't know
idea.
if I have room for that at PFF the way we're
You
carving things
should,
up.
depending how big it is, like you should probably have room for that, because we can just do it equivalent to how much space like if we all just want the same exact amount of space, we can divide it that way.
Right.
Like if you need more or less, like we can just figure it out. You know what I mean? It's
Figure it
not
out.
that
I
big of
mean,
a deal.
I know you guys have a lot more merch than I do. Like I'm usually trying to be kind of lean where it's like I've got the books, but I usually have like a couple out for people to look at, and then I have the rest in a box behind me. So
Yeah.
like, and then I'll have like business cards and stuff. This time I'll probably have some sort of low cost, easy sell item that's either like $1 or $2, and it's something I can throw in like, hey, if you buy more than one book, I'll throw in a blank, that kind of thing. So I don't know what.
Last year you had more than we had more than enough space to accommodate you even more, like, but
Yeah.
you're like, all I need is this much space. So
Yeah,
you
I
didn't
took
have
I
crazy
I
amount.
only needed, like last year it was like I just took basically enough my width, my shoulder width.
two
And like
two books, your shoulder,
yeah,
exactly.
it was like because it was, well, it was also I had no pressure on myself. It was like, it's one day, they're being nice and just inviting me to show up. Like, like I don't want to take a lot of space. I don't want to make a big deal of it. This time it'll be a little bit like I probably will want like a little more space, but even
Totally.
still, I don't tend to have a lot of stuff on the table. But you guys, I know you have a lot of different books to sell, a lot of different things where
Keith is experimenting with his stuff. Like we had 4 feet each at WonderCon, and Keith was like trying to find stuff to fill the gaps, like because he has trade paperbacks and then he has some single issues, and he goes like, I don't even know if I should put these out, but I feel like I need to fill the space, like that type of stuff. So
yeah.
it's not going to be a problem. You'll obviously definitely have more space this time around, since we're like splitting the table 3 ways,
Right.
as opposed to you just being a guest and like just like
But
don't even worry about it type thing. But like it's
but it's a
definitely
weird thing where it's a corner, so somebody's third is basically a corner spot, which is a little weird, so like I don't know if it. you know.
Honestly, if we did the same setup as we did last time, but just accommodating you more, I think it's fine. Like I think Keith kind of likes being in that middle spot because he was cleaning
It
up,
seems
to be
to.
honest with you. Like he
Yeah.
was cleaning up on that corner.
It
And
was.
it was funny because it kind of made me jealous because the Phoenix Fan Fusion before I had that spot and I didn't do shit. Like I was just like,
Right.
what the fuck? How come I got the dead side and he had the busy side? And then
Right.
so last year we switched spots and then he had the busy side and I
Yeah,
had the dead side. And then
Keith has the touch sometimes. It's a little infuriating.
he's got the touch, he's got the power.
Well, but one thing, and also this is another thing you and we need to talk about. I was asking Keith. I was trying to pin down like what kind of like I'm thinking of a banner because the banner I have is all like 75 related, so I need something that's more just general.
Yeah.
But then a smaller one for this. Like I can't do a full width one. And I was asking him like, do you have anything? I can't remember. Do you have anything behind you up high? And he's like, no.
Totally. Remember I had that giant backdrop of Prince.
Yeah, you
ended up butting it up against. See, I can't see my arm on this video. So
Yeah.
we ended up butting it up against the edge of the table, and then
Yes.
people were walking behind it, as opposed to it being all the way up against the wall because the depth is so much that a lot of people are like, don't even see the Prince in the back.
They can't see it. Yeah.
But when we pulled it forward, it kind of gave us our nook. We're like, okay, this is our booth. And if people have to walk back and forth, they just walk behind us and it doesn't impair the vision of our stuff. And
Right.
it allows them to walk freely. So I kind of like the same thing. But I wouldn't be opposed to like, if you and Keith wanted to hang stuff from it as well.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm totally cool with it. Like,
no, it sounds like Keith said he's content to have his on the front, like hanging off the front, and the impression I got from him, I don't know if he's changed his mind. He seemed to be telling me like, whatever you guys want to do with banners is you guys figure out. I don't give a shit. Like he's content
really
to do
care.
stuff off the front. So it's like, all right, well then if you and I can more or less just divide,
totally,
then I would maybe get like a half banner, that I could put up somewhere. That I don't know. This is stuff we should talk about. But
yeah, definitely. All right, my man, I gotta go.
Right.
The old lady,
I appreciate you dropping
lunch date. Oh yeah, it was really fun. So yeah, anybody in here that wants to check out the Second Shift Kickstarter Dragon Skull, please do.
Yes.
If you don't have any of the books, all 13 are available there, and it's fun. This one is really fun. I really do love this issue. It's been a blast to work on, and much like you with your latest book, like every time you create a book, you should feel like it's your best work, and I feel like this is mine and Ed's best work to date. So really
that's great. I'm looking forward to read it. I'm really looking forward to read it, and I would encourage people to back the Kickstarter because I enjoy them so far. But no, that 100% should always be the goal. Like you want them all to be equally good, but you also want, I think, each one to be the one that you pushed farther than before.
Hopefully you're learning as you're going along. So there's always more information to include or new technique or whatever it is in your writing, your art, whatever it is. So hopefully, oh yeah, Paul. Yeah, I'm up to 13, man. And there's like, if you're into digitals, you can go, there is a $20, you get 20 books. Like I have 20 comics. So it's just a $1 a book if you're in digital. But if you like the physical, there is 2 trade paperbacks, and then which is 1 through 10, and then 11, 12, and 13 are still singles because there's obviously not enough to collect into a trade. And if you're a single issue collector, you can always pick up the single issues in the add-on section. So if you want all single issues, pick up, do the 13 tier, and then just add all the single issues on. And I do this thing, if you're in the US, I don't add to the shipping. Like that's something on Kickstarter you can do. It's like, oh, here's the book. This is the cost. How much is the shipping on it? And then people usually add $1 for every book. And I'm like, but it's all going to the same place. Like it's like, now I'm paying, like, let's say it's all 12 books, right? 12 singles. It's like, I'm paying an extra $12 in shipping. I don't do that. If you're in the US, it's free. The add-ons are free, so
that's good.
If you're into the singles, you can do it that way. If you're into digital, that's there. If you want to do the trades, there's a bundle pack. It's called Second Shift Bundle, and that's the 2 trades, the 3 singles. And then there's another one that's all of my books. If you want to grab all of my books, there's a tier for that as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Definitely check it out. How much time is left on it?
I think 8 days. Like
8 days. Okay.
8 to 9. I think it's at 8. I think because it ends May 1st at noon, so it waits until noon and then it drops the day down. So
there we go. Okay.
right.
Yeah.
All right, my
Excellent.
man. I will talk
Okay.
to you in the chats and we'll figure
Yes.
out the whole booth thing for sure.
Yeah, how that's gonna. Gosh, it's gonna be here before you know it.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll be drinking the whole time. You won't be stressed. Don't worry.
We'll be totally drunk. We won't even remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
I'm psyched about Vegas. Vegas is it's like I don't have to worry about bringing in booze, like and them seeing it. It's like, no, we're in Las Vegas.
No, Vegas. That is really good and also in a way really bad. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah.
Well, the attendance drops after the second day because everyone's just hammered.
Just hammered. Yeah.
I don't know.
Hungover. Okay.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you.
See you.
Scott lost everybody. Yeah, and I do encourage you, go check out his Kickstarter. I am genuinely looking forward to getting the latest issue. So, okay. Let me see if there's anything I missed in the chat. There was a lot. I was trying to stay engaged. Not trying. That sounds weird. I was making it a point of being engaged in the conversation and not keeping my eyes on the chat. I was trying to listen, be a good guest or be a good host. And so therefore I probably missed a lot of the chat. Let me see. Yeah, I can see that. That would be, if I went overseas, that would be a thing I think I would quickly miss. It's good Mexican food. I do a Finnish sauna? What do you say, Finnish sauna? Well, it's still cold back there, huh? It's starting to warm up here. Let me see what the temperature is today. Phoenix, Arizona. The high today will be 93. And it looks like, looking at the 10 days ahead, we're officially now, and it's been kind of wavering a little bit, but now we're officially in like 90s, where 93, 94, 92, there's a 98 coming up next Friday, supposedly. So we're in that kind of part of it. But while I don't love the hot weather, I'm okay with it because we had a pretty extended winter. It stayed cool very late, which was nice. This was very nice. Let's see here. Let's see here. Some of these I caught. Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen to the rules, but don't feel obligated or enslaved by them. Like like I told Scott, it's all about execution. Whatever we're talking about when we're talking about art, it's all just how well you can do it. Whether we're talking about writing dialogue or what to draw or even stories, like when you feel like, do you think a story like this would work? Any story could work if you do it well. That's my attitude. Like, and it's all a question of how difficult will it be. You can do anything. There's no absolute rule. There's no like, this never works or this always works. It works both ways. Something that's like, oh, this never works. No, it could work if you did it well enough. Likewise, something that's like, oh, this is a crowd-pleasing thing to put in there. You could screw it up, though. Like, it's all execution. Execution is the only thing that matters. How righteous is your art kung fu? How well can you do the thing you're thinking of doing? That's all that it comes down to. Some of my favorite stories, favorite comics, favorite books, favorite movies have dopey premises that like you would think like this shouldn't work, but it does because it's done on a high level. And vice versa. Like we've all had the frustration of there's something about a pitch that you fall in love with. You're like, that sounds amazing. And you read it or you watch it or you, whatever the version it is. And you're like, that didn't really work. It's not really what I expected. I don't really love this. It's all execution. I enjoy these kinds of conversations for the stream. Like really kind of, first of all, it's just a conversation I would have off air that I would hope is beneficial to everyone involved. But when broadcast, I think it helps. First of all, it helps people if they're sorting through the same thing. They're kind of, in a way, being able to listen in. And also, and this is something I mentioned in my thank you notes for 79, I think it helps you feel like a part of a larger creative community if there's things like this. I think. I hope. Like, I don't do these purely to help promote stuff I'm trying to sell. Like, that's not it. I do these actually probably mostly as a way of participating in a community. It was important to me when I was starting this to be able to see videos like Artcasters or whatever and kind of feel like, okay, this is a thing that I think I could do that. I think I could be a part of that. I think I could, like, this is a thing you can do. You can make a comic, you can write a comic, you can draw a comic. I see them doing it. I think I could do it too. Like, it shows you the possibility. It being able to see that something is possible is important. And then once you're doing it, it also makes you feel like you have this loosely knit community. It might be spread out. They might be people you've never met in person. And I think that's important. The odds that you, where you live, are going to have a half dozen or a dozen friends who are all creatives, who are all working on their thing, whether it's music or art or comics, or they're writing novels, or they're whatever their thing is, sculpting. Yeah, like, some people are lucky enough to have that, especially if you're still in school, or maybe you're really active in your local art scene or something, but generally you won't. I think it's pretty typical, if you're a creative, that you're the only creative you like where you are. Like, you might not have another, like a friend locally who's also doing this. Maybe you have one, maybe two. Like, that's lucky. That's unusual. Therefore, I think it's important. I would like to think, and I would like to think I'm helping with this, to have things like this where you feel like, you know, you're part of a thing, and there's people you can relate to. There's people talking about things that you also are trying to work out in your own way with your own project or whatever. I think that's really, really important, and for a lot of different reasons. The simplest being, well, I'm scanning the chat here, art can be, making art, I think, is a necessarily kind of inward and lonely endeavor. Like, you need to make your focus very tight, and it's a lot of like internal digging and evaluating and weighing, and like it's an isolating experience that I think that's where art comes from, but at the same time, it's not a healthy place to live. Like, I think that's why it's important to have art friends that you can touch base with, connect with, and that will once in a while pull you in the other direction, I think. Let's see here. So this, I held this up before we were in the middle of something. I'm going to try and keep an eye out for that beer. It's a shame I was never, but it was like a limited thing, but maybe it'll come back. I don't know. I'll check. Let's check right now, actually. I remember the name of the brewery. It is the Brewery. Let's see. Yes, I am 21. Shop. I'm looking at their beers. Let's see if they still do. No, that's not it. It looked like it. I saw the can. I'm searching. I hope to just scan it, but now I'm searching. Come on. Out of stock. Oatmeal raisin cookie. Imperial stout with raisins, cinnamon, and vanilla. Now let's see. I'm going to do the beer finder. Hold on. We're doing this research live for you. Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to do within 100 miles of my zip code. No locations found. I don't know. I don't know if they make it anymore. I'm sorry. Har, har, har. Yeah. There's no way I could do a picture of beer. I'd be ruined the next day. It'd be totally, totally useless. Yeah, this is also wise. Yeah. That's what I should have done that night I got sick. Let's see here. I don't know if they'd be down. Do they play Risk? I don't know if Josh is even still playing Risk. I haven't noticed a lot of Risk games. Did he? So the question is, did he satisfy the itch? Or is he doing his Risk in secret, which is one of the #1 indicators of a Risk addiction? Is he doing it alone? Are you playing Risk quietly, privately? Is there shame associated with your Risk? Let's see here. My whole goal in these streams is to try to distract you in the comments. I've gotten that impression, but you have not succeeded yet. I was surrounded by creative people who had no discipline or drive. Oh, it was wrestling and BSing that brought us. You know what? That actually, it's funny. I'm trying to decide if I really say that. I don't know if I really mean this before I say it, but it's my hot take. I think having, I'm trying to be kind here. There's like the words that are popping up to say are like not very kind. But creatives who don't have discipline, don't have drive, don't have follow through, don't take their work as seriously as they could be taking it, don't strive to do better and better each time. Like, you know, who are not really, really serious about, and I don't mean like, oh, they're very dour and, you know, intense, but I mean not interested in putting out finished work of a level of quality, okay? Being surrounded by creatives, talk about it a lot, somehow can't turn their ambition into reality with their work. There's always excuses. There's always these kind of false starts and kind of weird, like, I honestly think that can be worse than just not having any creative community at all. I think it, I hate to say it, but it's a little, and maybe this is very like an older guy thing to say, but like, I think it just sets a bad example. I think it gives you permission to be the same way. Josh Kimball said something once, maybe he was quoting somebody else, but he was talking about like, if you're the best person in the room, you should find a new room. And I really relate to that. I think if the choice is between being a big fish in a little bowl or a little fish in a big bowl, you probably want to be the little fish. Like I think you need to feel challenged. I think you need to feel like, oh, I gotta up my game. Like I think at least for me, again, I'm not a rule guy, so like it might be different. That might be discouraging for you. For me, I need to feel like, oh, I should earn my spot. I should deserve to be wherever I am, you know? And it helps me to like really kind of respect like what I'm seeing. Like it inspires me to like, oh, I want to, if I see people pushing, like I want to push too. If I see people, I think Quentin Tarantino, back to Quentin Tarantino, he was saying, there's some line, people will be able to find the exact thing, but he was talking about how at one point he was working in the video store and he was thinking about making movies, and he had this aha moment where it's like, if I stay here working in a video store with, and these are his language, this is his words, not mine, surrounded by a bunch of loser friends, like I might be like the highest achieving of my loser friends in the video store, but that's still not anything. He made the decision like, I need to go to California, I need to go to LA, I need to be around screenwriters and directors and people, and I need to feel like my game needs to be raised. If I'm around a bunch of people who are doing nothing, me doing anything is better. And you could get comfortable with this idea of like, well, you know, at least I'm doing this, at least I'm doing that, compared to that guy who's not doing anything. That's a small, like the idea is like, you want to be around people who are like, whoa, I need to get serious. Like in college, you know, you're studying for a test. You want to get an A. You want to have an A in that class. You know someone's studying like all night the night before the test. And if you study for 2 or 3 hours, you know, well, that guy is studying, like they're pushing harder. Like it makes you aware of the fact I'm not pushing hard. Like I don't know if any of this makes sense or if any of that's relatable to anybody, but that's how I work. I think it's important to, when you're building your creative community, it's people that inspire you to push, inspire you to do your best work, not people that give examples of how not to do things. That's sort of useful, but I don't think there's a long-term value in that. Let's see here. Friends do show a beer baseball blog and travel for beer. Yes. If you can find, ever since I told him about it, he heard about it, he's been wanting it, and I haven't seen it since. I think it might have just been a one-off. I don't know. I think this community gives a healthy balance to an otherwise I think so too. Yeah. And by the way, you're an example of someone where it's like, it's a model of someone pushing. You know, I look at your books, I look at how long they are, how ambitious they are, you know, and like how good they are. It's another example of like, this is an indie who's not getting rich off this. Like none of us are, but nevertheless is taking it seriously. And like the ambition of like how long it takes you. These are long books, the Detective Perez books. Like that's months and months and months of work. A lot of, you know, it's really involved, and I can relate to that. And to be doing it because it's a passion, you want to do it well, you want to do it at a certain level, and it's not to pay the rent. You don't have to do it. You're electing to do it. That's a good example. To me, that's like an inspiring example. It's a pet peeve, and I'm not trying to throw any shade on anybody in particular, but like something that kind of checks me out, or, you know, we've all met this person, and this isn't a literal person. We've all met a version of this person who, like, you know, they've had something at 25% done for 15 years. Like it's always a new project, or I got a new idea now, or like that didn't work out. You know, now I think this is the way to do it. And like, it's just a lot of spinning your wheels, you know? And I mean, and part of me, like I've been in that state, and your heart breaks a little bit. Like, you know what that's about. You know how that feels. You know how you can end up in that spot. But I think at least for me, I just got over it. Like, I don't want to be that guy anymore. And even more so, I don't even want that on my horizon. Like, I don't want to see anybody else doing that. When it comes to my art community, I want people who are delivering, like doing it and doing it well and pushing, you know, trying to each time stretch. Like that's what's inspiring for me. That's what's helpful to me to have around. You're welcome. It's genuine. It's heartfelt. Scott and I will always put our books out to people. Yeah, always want to put our books out to have people read our stories. Yeah. I think I would probably do the books even if I wasn't putting them out. And even if I sold like 7 copies each time, I think maybe I would still see it through. Like, I don't know. It's hard to say, but it feels, I don't want anyone to mistake me. It feels great to sell a book. It feels great to have people like it. And when you can make a little money off it, like that's awesome. Like that's all cool. But it is not my primary motivation. And I think that's also a thing that I like to see in my art community. Like I actually, you know, I don't know how successful any of us are. Like we don't share that information with each other, but more importantly, I don't really care. Like if someone I know, like I don't know how many books Paul has sold. I don't know if he's sold 15 or 15 million. I don't know. Like but it doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter. Like to me, it's a success. Like it's like he's doing it. He made a thing. It's a comprehensible thing. It works. It's done well, and he put it out there. Like I think that's all I need to know. I don't need to know how many he's sold. I don't know. I need to know how many followers or likes or whatever. Like I don't get what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. I'm very oriented towards like the individual journey of like making that kind of thing happen. That's what I respect. That's what I appreciate. The idea of like how successful something is, like, I don't care. And that's not an indicator of anything. We all know garbage that is wildly popular, and we all know something that is fantastic that hasn't found an audience. Like it doesn't have anything to do with anything. I'm into the journey, like the experience of making the thing. And that's what I want to make out of my community. It's not like preoccupied with how much of a footprint, like an impact have you made. But that said, of course, like I could be writing in a diary if I just wanted to like have a personal journey. Like I'm putting this book out, these books out. I would like people to read them. I would like people to appreciate them. And I would like people to kind of, connect to them in the ways that I hope, like when I'm writing them, people will connect to them. So that is important to me. Like that is a necessary part of the process. But to me, it's like 40% of it. To me, like 60%. The majority of it is just my part, my experience, my journey. Like the experience of making and everything that goes into it. I was surrounded by those people in Flint, singers, writers, artists, all just talking. Yeah. I mean, that's where I still, like I was just saying, I still think, at least personally, the primary goal is just the making of the thing. To a level, like to visualize something you think is worth making, to take the time to do it at a level like the best you can, given whatever your constraints are, whether it's time or ability or all of the above, whatever, and to see it through and put it out there for people. I still think that to me is like the most primary goal. But the dream, the ambition is this: that someone picks up DvsM and reads it and it's meaningful to them in a personal way, that like there's some connection, that they see something of themselves in it, or it makes them think of something in a new way, or it's an experience they've never really had, like taking in some work before, or whatever it is. Like that's really the goal. The reason I'm always hesitant to say like that's my goal is I'm very, and this is again me, this is not me saying how anyone else should be. I'm very hesitant to put a lot of expectation on things that I feel like I don't have any control over. At the end of the day, I don't feel like I have any control over how DvsM sells, or whether someone reads it, or whether they love it, or whether it changes their life, or whether they come back to buy more books after they read one. Like, to me, there's an element of like, it's out of my hands. I think in our community, we talk about it. There's an illusion of control. Like we like to sit and talk about all the ways of, well, actually, no, if you do it this way or you do it this way. To me, it's almost like algorithm social media talk. Like, if you do it like this, then good things will happen. But you have to do it. You have to say the spell correctly, and you have to pronounce all the syllables exactly this way, and then therefore it will happen. And it's like a mathematical thing. You can actually control your success. I've always been very skeptical of that and kind of rejected intellectually. I think there is an element of you got to just let go, and maybe it'll happen and maybe it won't. You can do everything right and maybe it won't happen. You can do everything wrong and maybe it will happen for you. Like I think there's, again, an illusion of control over the process. And that's, I think, what I'm reacting to here is like, I can't to me, saying like, my goal is to connect to people with my art. I feel like that's in some way out of my hands. It depends on a good faith approach from a reader, not just buying my book, but sitting down and being willing to read it in an open way and have that connection. Like, it's just like a relationship. You have to be open to it. It's not just enough to sit there at the table and share a bottle of wine. You have to allow this thing to happen. You have to be open to an experience. I think that's something, and I have no control over that. I have no control over who's reading the book or how they're approaching it, or if they're reading it 4 pages at a time while they're trying to talk to their toddler, or if they would rather it was digital, or if they'd rather it was color. Like, this is all out of my hands. I just have control over my part. And that's why this was a rambling answer, but this is off the cuff. To me, therefore, like, my goals, when I think about what do I want from this, my goals are always going to be things that I have control over. I always kind of give side eye to people. It's like, I need to get 10,000 followers on my YouTube or something like that, because it's like, okay, well, now you've created a goal for yourself that you really don't have a lot of control over. So if it doesn't work out, you've now introduced unhappiness or disappointment or frustration or something into your life that was completely self-created. Like, you had, I think, a faulty ambition, and now you're paying, like, I'm interested in what I can do. What I can do is write a script as best I can. What I can do is plot it out and figure out what would be a fun book to read. What I can do is sit and draw it like a maniac for 60 weeks. Every time I have free time, basically, sit and draw and chip away at this book. What I can do is open up my wallet and order books to show up and make them available to sale. And I can try to do these videos and show up on other people's videos and be like, hey, I've got this thing. Maybe you'll dig it. You should give it a try. And that's pretty much, to me, that's where it's like, all right, I did everything I can. So I need to try and get the majority, or ideally all, of my personal satisfaction out of that. I do believe the ambition is that even if I sold 0 copies, I should be content. To me, that's the aspiration. Not that, oh, I could quit my job, or, oh, I get signed by some big company, or I get X number of reader, or I get interviewed by this big, whatever. Like, that's, I don't have any control over that. So I can't make that a dream. I can't make that a goal. I don't know if any of that makes sense. That's just me. Well, congratulations. But at the end of the day, wouldn't that be amazing? But even if you had sold 3, the ones that Josh, Jim, and I had bought, I'm still just as impressed. So it's the most important thing we have. The definite truth of it. That is a good, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be thinking about that. Time is a truth teller. Okay. So what now? We've gone. I usually try to keep these around 2 hours. We're at 2:07. I'm waiting for my physical proof of DvsM 79. When it shows up, I will probably do a live stream whenever that is. It won't necessarily be a Saturday. So whenever I get the proof, there'll be a live stream. Hopefully, it's not the end of the world. I mean, this is what the proof is for, to find problems. But hopefully, I didn't make any weird mistakes. And the book is all set up right. Like, all the pages are where I imagine them. They're in order. There's no weird format issue. I remember there was a 75 once I had not exported the artboard. I had just exported, and there was stuff outside the artboard, and so it skewed everything to that. Like, that was my fault. Hopefully there's nothing dumb like that. Hopefully the proof will show up. I'll read it, and it's perfect. I'll just be able to immediately email Comics Wellspring back and say, yes, proceed to print. Worst case, there are weird little things that I have to go and modify some pages and re-upload them, and then tell them, okay, use these new pages, but otherwise, okay to print. And then the wait begins for the order to show up. Once I've approved the proof and have a sense of when the books will arrive, then I'll be able to, I'll feel comfortable setting up an Etsy listing and putting it on sale. I don't want to do that till I know, in case there is some weird snafu, in case something is wrong with the setup, in case Comics Wellspring is weeks behind on printing. I don't know. Like, so it's too early to do it. I could probably set up like pre-order now, but I don't want to do it like weeks in advance. I want to try and get it close to when it's going to be in hand. I also, as I've talked about, I want to do a trailer for it. I want the trailer to be, at the end, on sale now. So I probably won't really be doing serious work on the trailer until I've seen the proof and approved it. And I know like it's like comics are going to be showing up. Then I'll probably be motivated to really start finishing the trailer with the link to my Etsy listing, order now. So I don't know when that will be. I have no sense. I've checked every day. I look to see like what's going on with my order at Comics Wellspring in production. I don't know. I placed the order on Tuesday. I don't remember how long it normally takes to get the proof. I feel like it's like a couple week or two. I don't know. I don't remember. So we'll see. I'm just sitting here trying not to think about it. And then once I get it, get them all bagged and boarded and for sale, I might have a few days of relief, but then I'll have to almost immediately pivot toward Phoenix Fan Fusion. I got I'm out of stock of 75 and 97. I need both for Comic-Con. I'm calling it Comic-Con. So I got to reorder those. As I was talking about with Scott, I probably want some sort of a banner. I just got to figure out my table, and I got to get that ball rolling of ordering whatever things I need for that, which I have not thought about hardly at all because I've been focused on getting 79 out the door. Once I have the proof, you can expect a lot more information about 79. What's it about? You'll get a gist of it from the trailer. You'll get then I'll start to be a little more open. I know I tend to be very private about the process, and I'm worried about spoilers, and I kind of want the wonder of like you get it and you read it and you get to see like it's all sort of new to you. I don't, again, this is just me, not a rule. Some people like they'll upload every page as they finish it. I tend to be more like, no, I want you to sit down and basically be seeing things for the first time. I want you to have that kind of first read magical experience without knowing too much about where this is going to go. Anyway, but once I have it, we'll be able to talk more about it. I think that's it today. I should be streaming as usual a week from today, next Saturday, probably the normal time, 11 a.m. Unless, or maybe in addition to, maybe a proof will show up and I'll do that emergency live stream talking about the proof. We'll see. I'm going to do one last look at the chat, and then I'm going to sign off. Thank you to everyone who came by to talk. Let's see here. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. I'm eager for you guys to see it, especially since you all in the Artcasters chat especially have, seen weird little sneak peeks and I've been talking about it for so long. It'll be, especially you guys, I'm eager for you guys to see this thing now that it's done. Hard to imagine. Just kidding. I would not, of the words I would use to describe Paul Page, a-hole is not in there, but thank you. I appreciate it. I hope you guys show up. I hope you love it. I am proud of it. I've gotten, in this time, like finishing and tweaking and writing thank you pages and now sending it off, I'm getting more and more distance from it. I'm able to look at it more like with fresh eyes, which is hard when you're immediately finished. It's a weird thing to say about your own work, but I'm impressed with it. I think I took a big swing with a lot of it, and I think I connected. Like I think I succeeded at doing what I was trying to do. Something I'm say in the thank you page. It's the hardest I've worked on a DvsM. I think everything in it is done at the highest level I've done so far in DvsM. I think it's the best drawn, it's the best written, it's the most carefully thought about, it's the most planned. It's like it's just, and as this is me repeating something I say in the thank you page, I'm not going to say, therefore, it's the best DvsM. I'm not the one to answer that. I will say it's the most DvsM of all the DvsMs. To me, it is the most completely and elaborately and I guess expertly realized version of what I'm trying to do with this series. I think it might be, this is not a bad thing, this is what I set out to do with it, the weirdest of all of them. Not weird, but I think I have an attitude. I felt this way with 97 too. But this one I feel like for all of them, knowing what the last three are going to be, that if people dig this one, I'm home free. This is maybe the most challenging of them, I think. And I don't mean like, oh, it's too high concept or it's too complicated. It's not like that. It's just, I think it's the most extreme distilled version of this weird thing I'm doing, which is really getting into like the character stories in the midst of extreme premise and trying to find those little human moments against the backdrop of this craziness, you know? And like, so I think this is the one that's the biggest reach for that. And that's why I say, like, if people read, anyone who reads this one would love it, but it's like, well, now I've got them. Because like the rest are way more, I think, accessible and easier to consume. You know, I think this is maybe like the, I don't know. I'm reluctant. I'm kind of trying to talk about it without talking about it, but you'll see. You'll see. But I'm hopeful. I hope that it works for people. I hope they respond to it. And I hope they respond to it in some of the ways that I'm intending them to respond to it. It's great when people have their own individual experience that you didn't expect, as long as they enjoyed it. But you, of course, would like this was an idea I kind of want to get across, and I hope it's making it. I hope you see it there. I have thought about a collectible card game, you know, a la Magic the Gathering. But that would be something I'd probably screw around with once I got done with the books. Like, I can't imagine the time it would take to do this right while trying to do books. So, well, thank you. Yes. I am always, I'll put this in the listing. I'm happy to sign. If you ask, I will autograph. I will never autograph by default. That's my own weird thing. I think a lot of people assume they should all just be signed. I don't know. I feel weird about it. I'm not vain in that way. I'm not like, and not that that's vanity, but like, it's actually the inverse of that. It's a weird negative self-esteem thing where it's like, do people really want me to write on their clean, perfect new book? Like, it's like, well, you made it. Yeah, we want you to sign it. I understand, you know, but like for me, there's a weird hang up where it's, but if you ask me, I will, and that's also why I would never charge for that. I see some people, it's like, you know, for $5, I'll autograph it. No, you ask me, I'll autograph it. If that's what you want, like, anyway. It'd be kind of fun. Okay. I'm going to go, like I said. Yeah, it's weird. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I'm always happy to do it. I'll do it. The one thing I still have a problem with, and if Squatch is still listening, he can attest to this, when people want me to remark it, I have to say, like, I'm still not used to that. I don't love doing it. It feels weird. It feels weird to be drawing on the cover of a book. Like, I don't know. I know, and I know people. Some people want that. Some people love that. I don't like it. I don't like doing it. I would buy it, like, and that's what's stupid about it, is if someone else was offering it, and that was an option, and it was reasonable, I could be like, yeah, I want that. But like doing it myself, I don't know. It just feels weird. It feels weird. I just like, why do you want that? I don't know. I don't want to do that. I don't know. There is a level of this. It's still, to this day, now 3 books in, where it's very difficult for me. In a perfect world, like my dream would be like I would spend all the time making it. I would get it printed, maybe do a little bit of promotion, like show up on some shows, talk about it, and someone else handle all the selling. Like I'm not good at it. I don't love it. It's just not my favorite part of the process. And I think it's the same reason I feel weird signing something or weird remarking something. It's like, contrary to what people might believe with me doing a weekly live stream, like, I don't really want to be the star of this. I want the work to be the stuff. Like, I kind of would like to just put it out there and recede, like that, the gif of Homer Simpson, like, disappearing into the hedge. Like, that's kind of what I wanted. Like, that sounds about right. That's what I prefer. So I gotta tell you, I didn't bring it up with Scott Lost. I'm not particularly excited about Fan Fusion. I'm excited to see those guys. The Arizona Comic Book Arts Festival was the exception. I don't really love doing conventions. Like, I don't love being out and like pimping. That's what it feels like hustling. Like, ugh, I hate it. I just not. I will be in it to have like beers and dinners with those guys and talk to them and hang out with them. And to me, like, the price I have to pay is sitting at a table for a whole Phoenix Fan Fusion. That's the truth. That's like, and yeah, I'll sell some books and I'll get some new fans, and that's great. But man, if I could have a Gary robot just do it for me, I would do it in a heartbeat. Yeah, I'm glad. See, I can't tell if like I'm weird about it. But it sounds like there's a lot of like, it's strange. It's a strange thing. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not some, like, I just made a thing. You know, again, and I have no problem with it. If someone asks for the autograph, I'm not like, oh, you're weird. That is not it at all. I am flattered and happy to do it. But that's not my default state. I would never sit and get all my books and just automatically sign them. Like, never, never, never. I never would assume someone would want that. They have to ask. And it's been funny when I've sold books in the past, they didn't ask. So I sent it unsigned, and sometimes people seem shocked, like, oh, I thought you'd sign it. And it shows me, I don't blame them. It shows me that, like, I obviously think about it in a weird way. Like, I would never assume. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway. Okay, guys, that's it. Good luck on whatever you're working on. Hope you have a nice rest of the weekend. I will see you, whichever comes first. Proof shows up or next Saturday. See you then. Bye-bye.